Okay, building up to our third lab now, we're going to look at the event aggregator. We'll follow that by composition and routers. So let's talk about events for a little bit more detail. As we mentioned in the opening talks, events are often what makes building interactive applications so complex. And Aurelia introduces some interesting facilities to keep that complexity under control, and one of the main ones is the event aggregator, which is a component we'll be using in the labs. As we discussed, events can be very diverse. They come from all angles. Many of these controls generate multiple events, and of course if we're trying to build a flexible application, perhaps with reusable view models, the events may be quite dynamic. There may be, just by introducing some components, may introduce event sources and possible event sinks. The key really is find a way of decoupling the event source from the event sink, if at all possible. It's a well-known technique. Broker is the idea. So if we are likely to be generating events, we don't try send them directly to the view model that we're targeting, or maybe to all view models that we think are interested. We just send the event to a broker. Then anybody interested in events like this can subscribe to the broker, and they will receive the events when they are received. So there's an Aurelia event aggregator for exactly this task. It allows us to define events. It allows us to publish events to a broker. The broker is called the event aggregator in this case. And then we can subscribe to events, and publish and subscribe allows us to fairly elegantly decouple the producer and consumer and start to grow the application in an orderly manner. Let's start with the notion of what an event is. An event is any class. So you can create a class called example event here, storing a message in it, and that's an event. It's an event containing, in this case, it might just be a string. You would export that class from the module, and anybody interested in subscribing or publishing this event would need to import the example event class. The event aggregator then is part of the framework, and we import it from the framework in the usual way. We're doing it here. Event aggregator from the event aggregator framework in Aurelia. Notice also we are importing the example event we just looked at. And then also notice that we are defining an injector here to bring in the event aggregator, which we're going to use. If we inject the event aggregator, remember what injection does, it makes available the aggregator, in this case as a parameter, which we store inside our object. We're calling it EA in that instance. I'm not showing event publishing here, I'm just showing us including the event aggregator and the example event class. Now the subscriber also has to do the same thing. So the subscriber in the example here is mirroring exactly what the publisher would do. Inject the event aggregator and store it in the constructor for the class. Now we can do the publishing. Back to the event publisher, we just call this EA publish, and we publish a new event object with a string in it. That's all we do. Anybody who has injected the aggregator and subscribed to this event will now get the some event string. And it looks like this here. Inside of my subscriber, we do ea.subscribe, and then using callback and arrow syntax, we're going to get triggered. This function will be called when that event occurs. So it's quite simple. I don't have to know the client, the subscribers and the publishers don't have to know about each other. They just import the aggregator, and once they've done that, they can publish and subscribe to their heart's content. Just reviewing that briefly again. This is the subscriber injecting the aggregator. This is the publisher doing the same thing. These are more or less the same classes, different names obviously. This is the publisher then publishing an event. We call ea.publish and create a new event object, the example event in this case. And this is the subscriber. Subscribe, the type of the event we're subscribing to is the first parameter. And the second parameter is the event callback. So we'll be getting this method called when the event is published by the publisher. There's a subscribe once method, which means you get the first event only, and after that you're not going to get any more. That may be interesting in certain circumstances. And we've got also the notion of a channel. We won't be using this, but it's you can see it might be quite flexible in certain circumstances. This time when the publisher is publishing an event, we specify a string, which is a channel name. And then there's an unspecified payload delivered. And the subscriber then subscribes to the string name, the channel, and they're going to receive that payload when the event is generated. We're going to use it in the labs. So we will have a total update event. That is, we'd like to somehow have this here defining a message class. We're just storing the latest total that has been donated. Then in our donation service, we're injecting the fixtures and the event aggregator now this time. So we've got two singleton objects being injected. And then down here, we're going to, when we receive a donate, we're going to publish to the event aggregator that a new total has been computed. Notice we're creating the total here. So we're creating that total and publishing it to whoever is interested. It's important to note that we don't know who's interested, we don't know who's subscribed, we don't want to know. We just have decided or determined that a new total having been accumulated is important, and I'll issue it and I'll publish it. Any interested parties then may come along and subscribe. There may be none, or there may be loads. In our example, it's going to be 1. We're going to have a stats view model, and it's going to be popped up there, sitting wherever we decide to put it, and it is going to show us the latest total donated. So remember how view models work. We have data binding ensures that we've got binding going on between these two. That is total on the screen and on the view and total here. So if I update total in the view model, it'll appear automatically in the view. And then secondly, in the constructor for the view model, we have injected the event aggregator, and we subscribe immediately, without saving the event aggregator, we subscribe it immediately to the total update. And in this total update, we update our attribute, which of course will trigger an immediate update on the view. So that's an overview of the event aggregator and how we're using it. It's just takes you a few seconds to get your head around it. It's just the notion of a broker really is what you have to understand. The publishers push events into this broker, publish them, and any interested parties can subscribe to the broker. The broker is called the event aggregator, and in the subscription we will receive the events as published. In our case, the events will always be specialized classes we build. Very simple classes holding whatever values we think are appropriate.